Hello, my name is Gabriella Galvin. This is my final discussion presentation. It's on utilizing the SQ3R reading approach. So there are many reading strategies that have been created for students to utilize in order to best maximize their comprehension, retention, and overall reading skills. The three most commonly used strategies are P2R, SQ3R, and SRUN-R. Of the three, I will be talking about SQ3R and how I used it with my studying. SQ3R was created by Francis Robinson in 1941. It was made to promote a deeper understanding of any reading material by actively interacting with a given text using 5 different steps. These 5 different steps are in the name of the approach: survey, question, read, recite, and review. The first step, survey, involves previewing the contents of a chapter before committing to an extensive read. This could be done by scanning the pages for any introductions, headings, or conclusions. This step's purpose is to get a feel for what the reading is, a way to prime your brain instead of going in blind. Next is question. Before reading the text, turn the headings into a question. For example, if you had a heading that read, "Reading Strategies for College Students," turning this into a question may look like, "What are reading strategies for college students?" This step is basically made to encourage identifying the purpose of a paragraph or the author's main points. Next is read. This step is an extension of the previous step. That is, you are actively reading the text in search of the answer to the question that was previously created. This promotes active reading, and it furthers any comprehension and retention of the text, given that you are given a goal to look for an answer. Next is recite. This involves recalling the answer in your own words to the question previously created. In the scenario where you cannot remember the answer, you just read over the section and jot it down just briefly. The next step is review. After finishing reading the text, review any notes taken. Test your knowledge by reciting the main points of the chapter again, and you do this with every subsection of any given text you're reading. How does SQ3R work? The transition from high school to college or any higher education can be difficult given the workload. Most classes require reading some form of text, like a textbook or an article. These things are very heavy and harder concepts. They have denser material, smaller fonts, and the chapters just seem to be getting longer. In order to make reading easier, there is repetition, segmentation, and testing understanding, which SQ3R prioritizes. Repetition is one of the best learning strategies to absorb information. The SQ3R reading strategy's first step and last 3 steps allow for the reader to review the material more than once. Segmentation. There are many textbook chapters that are over 30 pages, so segmenting the chapter into different sections allows you to focus on one thing at a time. Segmentation reduces the pressure that comes from reading heavy chapters and promotes slow and interactive attention to one thing. Next, testing understanding. It could sometimes be hard to gauge whether the text's material was effectively absorbed. The SQ3R reading approach has a built-in goal for readers to complete. That is, questioning the importance of the text, looking for the answer, and testing your memory by reciting the answer after completely reading the text. This reading strategy keeps a reader responsible for their comprehension. Now, David L. Carlston performed a study that involves SQ3R, in which psychology students used the approach to study for their 2 exams. There were students who completely used the approach and performed best, averaging between 70 and 75% on their exams, while students who did not use the approach either at all or completely performed worse, averaging between 60 and 65% on their exams. I utilized this approach by studying for my osteology quiz 6, in which we reviewed the human hyoid and vertebrae. For my osteology class, it's a very picture-heavy class or subject. I have to look at lots of pictures. I have to be very hands-on, but there still requires reading written instructions to orient the bones correctly. So, using this step, I prioritized the recite step to make sure I comprehended the location of landmarks on the bones, which is the main point of many of my quizzes. I saw that I had about a 10-point jump between quiz 4 and quiz 6. I had a 32 out of 50 on quiz 4 and a 43 out of 50 for quiz 6. A way I would revise using this reading strategy is to not use it for classes who are very picture and hands-on heavy. I would use this for a class that reviews lots of journals, articles, or just text in general, maybe a methodology class, but I wouldn't use it so much for my osteology class that I really require like physical labor for, just holding bones, looking at pictures of bones. I think this could really work well with other classes, but maybe not mine, although I did think it helped. I think that I had the benefit of having an easier lesson for quiz 6 rather than quiz 4, although I do still think it helped. But that's the end of my presentation. Here are my references, and thanks so much for listening.